you know Zakia Suman very well. She was at the forefront of women's movement, particularly that which was related to triple talaq. And when triple talaq was abolished in 2017, I think on August 22nd, at that day, it was a historic day, not only for Zakia Soman, but also for thousands of other women. So today we are going to talk about the issue of gender, the issue of minority, and also the magisterian state. The immediate context is that recently Delhi High Court has given an observation in a case that the center should go for implementing uniform civil code. You know it very well that this issue has been a controversial one for last 70 years. Court has also earlier given observations that the state must go for that. So we will definitely ask these questions, and as I have framed the title of this discussion, that should we need uniform civil code? Should we need uniform civil code in this country for gender justice? So I will take that questions in a while. My first question is to Zakia Soman, who is women's right activist and co-founder of Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan. Madam, welcome to this show, and I'm asking the first questions about your family background. That what is your family background? What is your education? And when did you start getting interested in women's questions, particularly Muslim women's questions?
Hi, Abhay. Thanks for having me. I come from a Gujarati family, basically. On my maiden side, my family has educationists. My father retired as a principal in a college of the Gujarat University. My mother also retired. She was a teacher in the high school. And before them, my great-grandmother was the headmistress of the village school in a Bharuch district in South Gujarat. And my own grandmother, my nani, was a teacher in the municipal girls' school in the walled city of Ahmedabad. So I come from a background of educationists who have been, like very middle class, working class people, but with stress on hard work and how you sort of fend for yourselves and make your lives, and you be good to yourselves and you be good to everybody around. So I come from that kind of a background. I'm married to Soman Nambiar. He's from Kerala, but he comes from a very different background from mine. He's from a multinational corporation, and I have a son, 33-year-old son called Arastu. Abhay, your voice is gone.
Okay.
I can't.
Can you tell us about your education and yes. also your interest in women's questions? Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah. So I did my master's and followed by my MPhil again from the Gujarat University, and I started teaching in a college, commerce college in Ahmedabad called SJVM Commerce College, affiliated to the Gujarat University. And I was like any other middle class person, busy with their own lives. In the sense, I did not study like social work. I had, no understanding as such, about what is feminism. I had no understanding about what is human rights. Because where I come from, and in those days, perhaps today, ordinarily also people have these understanding, but where I come from and in my time, this was not part of our common sense. So I had a very checkered kind of an upbringing as far as communal rights are concerned. In the sense, the most prominent image of my childhood, one of the most prominent images of my childhood is the burnt down home of my grandmother, of my dadi, because my dadi's home was in Kalupur, Tangsal, which is a border area in Ahmedabad. So in Ahmedabad, we refer a border where the Muslim ilaka ends and the Hindu ilaka begins. So her home was on the border. So it used to be amongst the very first homes which used to be attacked. So that image stayed with me. And then growing up, I had numerous experiences including after my father's retirement way back in 1990. In the run-up to the Somnath Yatra of L.K. Advani, my own parents' home was burnt down. And my parents were, I should give you some idea of, the ghettoized living in Ahmedabad. Abhay. Ahmedabad is unlike most other cities of India, where, where the whole city is like a cosmopolitan area, but there are only fixed Muslim localities, ghettos, where the Muslims can live. But my parents, being what they were, they also sort of had the dared to move out of the old city and take a home in the Azad Society satellite area, which was a whole area full of the university community. So my parents thought that we'll be very happy, it'll be very good for us to be growing up there, and that's how we left our old home, which was in a Muslim neighborhood, and we moved to this place. And we lived happily over there. We had very good experiences also. We had very good friends, very good neighbors. But eventually, like I was saying, in 1919, the run-up to Somnath Yatra of Mr. Advani, there was some kind of violence. And in that violence, my parents' home was completely burnt down, despite of intervention by a lot of our neighbors who were my father's colleagues in the university. So yeah.
Okay, so will you be happy to call yourself Islamic feminist? Because what is my understanding is that Islamic feminists, they argue that the problem is not with the text, with the holy text. It is with the interpretation of a religious authority. So what is your take? How far religion is important? Yes.
Abhay, that is largely true, because the patriarchal interpretations and misinterpretations down the ages have come to be passed off as Islam. That is largely true. But as far as I am myself concerned, I don't care for labels of any kind. All I know now today.
No, but you call yourself a liberal humanist. So it is also a label. It is also a label.
Yeah, because people want to know where you are coming from. So I think liberal humanism is something which I hold very dearly to.
And what is the problem with Islamic feminists?
Because there are kinds and kinds and kinds of feminists, and there are kinds and kinds and kinds of Islamic feminists also. So when I talk to some friends in the Arab world or in Northern Africa, they are shocked that how can you be an Islamic feminist, because they have a very different experience of people who go by this label, So, and we have seen this in our country also, that there are so many right-wing persons, women and men, who describe themselves as feminists. So that's why I realized that the labels are not worth it, Abhay. This is my, call it the whatever wisdom which has come out of my gray hair, call it that way. But as of now, I feel that I don't really want to identify with any of the labels.
Okay, so there are two positions. One, at least there are two positions. One, the first position says that the problem is not with the text. All religions, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Sikhism, they all teach good lessons, like what Mahatma Gandhi ji had said, that all roads lead to God. And there is another view which argues, and particularly it is coming from, let's say, Dalit feminists, maybe from let's say those who do not give much importance to religion. They argue that the second position is that religion religion is one of the problem for the downfall of the women's positions, and I think it has reduced them to a position of slave. So which position are you comfortable with?
I feel, Abhay, very frankly, not that I am sure about it, but today I'm sure about it. What I'm sure about is that the truth lies somewhere in between. That the texts are much better than the practice, that is largely true. That is, that is 90% true, perhaps. That is largely true will be the best way to put it across. There are some
because I know A.G. Noorani once wrote that go back to the text. Yes. Leave the interpretation.
Yes. So lot of the problems can be solved by doing away with the misinterpretations. Lot of the problems can be solved. Gender justice can be addressed by humanist, gender just interpretations. But having said that, there are some problematic areas in all texts of all religions. So I would not want to go there. But yes,
Okay.
what prevails today is the huge misinterpretations. And we also have to keep in mind, more important, Abhay, than the position of any intellectual or any feminist, what has to be kept in mind, that to the average woman who lives in the gali mohalla, who lives in the slum, who is the victim of triple talaq or who is the victim of a dowry death coming from another background, to her religion matters. So that is what is very important. I cannot be a good activist or a good humanist or a good feminist if I disregard her faith in her religion. So I have to respect that. So I think, it's not so black and white, but things are somewhere in between. They are very nuanced. They are complex. But once human beings, and particularly women, as we have seen in the struggle against triple talaq, once they start getting an understanding, once they start getting a perspective about religion and religious texts and the religious teachings and sayings, it empowers them. And they come in a greater position to take charge of their lives and their affairs. So it's a very, very gradual, very, very slow, painstaking process. So it's not so black and white, according to me, Abhay, at least. I would say
Okay.
that.
So your organizations that you co-founded, Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan, that is well known, and I think the person who is reading newspaper and who is aware about contemporary things, they know this organization. So could you tell us the story behind the making of these organizations, and why Muslim name was added to that group? Because many people would argue that women are suffering in all the communities. So,
Yes.
so do you think that had it been named as Bharatiya Mahila Andolan, it would have been better than calling it Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan? Yes, your response.
Yes, Abhay. So this coming together happened in a formal manner. It happened, I think, in January 2007. So almost like 15 years ago. But the story as to how did the need arise for all of us women to come together, that is the most important part, I think.
And call
So
it Muslim Mahila Andolan.
Yes. So this name has been very carefully thought through. Each word of it, I will explain how. So we all, came together post the communal riots of in Gujarat in 2002. And like I said, at least as far as I am concerned, I had no idea what is activism, what is the kind of whole business of voluntary organizations and NGOs and activism and social movements. I had no clue. I was like an average Gujarati person. So it was only when post the riots and the kind of situation which arose when there was curfew, where there were innocent men, women, and children who were attacked by, huge armed mobs. And these victims received no protection from the state machinery and from the police. And they were forced to flee, and they were forced to take shelter in the relief camps. So these relief camps were set up in Kabristan. You may not have heard this before, Abhay, because in a place like Odisha, just say today, when there's a flood or there's a cyclone, relief camps are set up, but they are set up in government infrastructure. They are set up in government schools, in other government places. But here, because the government was in denial about the riots taking place, and the government was in denial because the government was too sort of hung up on the fact that the train Sabarmati Express was attacked and burnt down at Godhra. Rather than investigating the truth about that, the government pre-decided that it is the Muslims who are responsible and who should be taught a lesson. So government machinery did not help the victims who were fleeing away. So as a result, the relief camps were set up inside Kabristans. In various parts of the city, mainly the old city. And because there was curfew everywhere and it was not possible to go out anywhere, I happened to go visit the one of the relief camps with lot of relief material, food, medicines, clothes, and some some necessity items. And what I saw there, and the kind of stories I heard, after that I sort of it became it happened gradually, but at least I became an activist after that, because for the first time it made me realize what it means to be a Muslim in a communally charged atmosphere. It also made me understand how privileged, even as my parents' home had been burned down, and my dadi's home had been regularly burnt down. Even despite of that, I realized the fact that I was teaching in a college, the fact that I came from an upper middle class background, what a privilege it had been for me, and what it meant to be alive, despite of all that so many people had undergone. So that changed me. And then that decision happened within the year 2003. And I sort of entered full time the field of social activism, and that's how I happened to meet other fellow Muslim women who had been coming to various relief camps to volunteer. Various journalists, various writers, artists, not just nationally but internationally known people were also coming to volunteer in the camps. And because the camps were going on for almost a year, because the victims were not being rehabilitated, that safe environment was not being created for them to be able to go back to their homes. So it's there that I met some of the fellow women, and for the first time I started looking at myself as a Muslim, and I had a kind of a bonding with these women as Muslim women. And we all started talking and becoming friends with each other. And a few years down the line, in 2004 2005, we met in different places. Like we met in Lucknow because there was a lady from Lucknow. We met in Jaipur because there was a lady from Jaipur. We met in Bombay. We met several times in Ahmedabad, in Delhi. So we identified what is it that is ailing the community and the country. And you also have to we also have to keep in mind that this was happening post the events of 9/11, where it had become very commonplace, for a Muslim to be sort of singled out because of the person, because of the faith background, because of the identity. So all of us were feeling that something is going on, a lot is wrong. We need to do something about it. And after these kind of deliberations for about close to 2.5, 3 years, I don't exactly remember, we decided that we need to have a national collective, because we also recognized during these meetings that I described when we met, we also recognized that we have been unjustly dealt with inside our homes, within our families, and also in the larger society and the polity. And we were able to sort of come to this conclusion that the failure lies or broadly the failure lies at at the doors of two entities. One entity is all those who have sought to represent the Muslim community, the Muslim leadership, quote unquote leadership, because I don't think it is a leadership worth the name, because of the lack of any other word, I'm calling it leadership. So that one whole lot of front blame lies on at their door, and another door where the fault lies is at the door of the government of India, because we are not just Muslims, we are also citizens in a democracy. And that time it was 6 decades. Of course, now it is over 7 decades. So that time also we felt that even when nearly 6 decades of independence are, coming, like it's like nearly 6 decades to independence, and still most Muslims are so poor. We are lagging behind educationally. We are lagging behind on all fronts. The human development indices in our community are so poor. So we felt that we need to change that, Abhay. And how are we going to change that? We thought we will change it by coming together and forming a women-led body for women by women, but which will be open to all. And like I said, a lot of brainstorming happened in the naming, because we felt that we have to go by the name Bhartiya, because Bhartiya is not the copyright of a bunch of people. You know who I am referring to. I am as much a Bhartiya, Abhay, as are you, Abhay. isn't it? Abhay is as much a Bharatiya as some Alex is, or some Aisha is. So we thought that we want to appropriate this word back from, its bad kind of bad usage and bad connotations. So we felt we have to be going by the name Bharatiya Muslim, because we needed to assert that yes, we are Muslim and we are Bharatiya, and Mahila, because we were going to give a sort of amplify, we were going to give a platform to the women's voices, because we felt that the conservative patriarchal leaders have spoken for too long in our name, and they have spoiled the entire sort of scenario, and because of them we are in this past today. So that's what we felt at that time, and we still continue to feel, and even as there have been newer experiences, and Andolan we added because we felt looking at the scale of the issue, it cannot be addressed by one individual or one NGO or one group. It has to be at the level of a tehreek or a movement. So that's why this name happened. And yeah, we have
Okay.
reasons to be happy, but we have a long way to go. So yeah.
Okay. So Supreme Court has already abolished triple talaq. But what has happened that the government has criminalized it. That once a Muslim husband has done divorce, then that person can be jailed or may be jailed for 3 years. So this has also created some kind of anger and also fear among Muslims community also, because nowhere the civil matter has been criminalized. So your organizations, your Tahreek has achieved milestone by helping or creating environment against triple talaq, but it has ended up bringing about a law by the government that is going to further criminalize and victimize the Muslim community. So will you think that your movement has somehow been hijacked by the right-wing forces?
See, what you're saying is very, very important, Abhay, and there are so many aspects here. First and foremost, the question of instant triple talaq, or the question of subjugation of Muslim women, predates the BJP government. It predates even I think even independence, but I would not go there. We would stick to, since we got ourselves the constitution, so that is the kind of a cutoff. So it predates the BJP government. Successive Congress governments, supposedly secular governments, did nothing on this count. So that is one. Yes, there has been an attempt to hijack our movement, but what else will be the outcome when the secular forces are quiet? Secular political parties are quiet. They don't come out openly. They remain in ambiguity. They remain in denial. So it is an opportunity for BJP is also a political party after all. And hijacking issues, isn't it in the nature of the political parties in India? So even if they have attempted to hijack it, it's thanks to all these kind of all this kind of thinking and all this kind of practice by those who claim to be secular, be they political parties or be they other people. But I don't think it has got hijacked, because in this whole process, see, we raised the issue of triple talaq, instant triple talaq, in a big way first time, if I'm not wrong, in 2010. We held a big public hearing in Bombay in 2010, where more than 500 women from different parts of the country, from some 15 states, came. And also those who had undergone instant triple talaq, those women came. They came with their children, and firsthand they narrated, what are the kind of hardships they have undergone. And I'm not exaggerating, but the entire hall was full of people, and most of them were in tears as they were hearing, the accounts of by these women. And this was reported very well by all the leading newspapers, English newspapers and Marathi newspapers also, and some Hindi newspapers also. But like I said, that it didn't receive any response from the government or the various governments of the day. It's only when the BJP government came to power in the center that they started sort of for whatever
No,
reasons.
No, but I keep reading newspapers. When I was in PhD, when I entered in 2013, the reason why I also did some work on All India Muslim Personal Law Board, because every day I was getting a story about all about Muslims women being oppressed, and some of the scholars have also argued, anthropologists particularly from the Middle East, that the image of oppressed Muslim women is not exclusive to the campaign in India also. It has its origin in West also, and whole campaign against, let's say, Afghanistan and elsewhere, that was created
Yes,
around image of oppressed
yes,
Muslims
yes,
women. So
yes.
the question is that why gender issue is only being talked about being talked around the issue of minority. Hindu women are also suffering. They also suffer.
No, there's a difference. There's a difference. There's a difference. There is a Hindu Marriage Act. There is a Hindu Succession Act. There is the Adoption and Guardianship Act. The Hindu law has been reformed, has been codified. Just, earlier the Hindu women were not entitled. It's a janam janam ka bandhan. The Hindu women were not entitled to a
But what
divorce
about
as per the as
1937?
per the as per the Hindu religious texts. They were not entitled to,
But
and
what about
it was. I'll come to
1937
37.
Sharia
I'll,
Act?
I'll,
Yes.
I'll come to 37. I'll come to 37. It is a great tribute we should pay to the acumen of Pandit Nehru and Baba Sahib Ambedkar, that they brought about the Hindu Code Bill with its set of laws. In 54, 55, the whole set of some 9, 10 laws. The
But
Hindu Succession Act, the Hindu Marriage.
Ambedkar also resigned, and he was frustrated because it got diluted. And at that time in 1950s, the Hindu right wings were against Nehru,
Yes, of
that they are
course,
going and they are
of
intervening.
course, of course. You made my task
So
easier.
to
You made
say
my
that
task
Hindu, no, to
easier.
say that
You may you.
Hindu personal laws are reformed and there is no need to look into that domain, and only the problem lies with the Muslim
No,
community.
no,
That
no, no,
is
no, 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 no. No, Abhay, not at all. You are totally wrong here. Let me just please hear me out. See, there's a major difference. There are codified Hindu family laws dealing with all aspects of marriage, inheritance, succession, etc. So we also want a codified Muslim family law where the age of marriage is 18 and 21. Where the procedure of divorce is laid down as per the Quranic procedure, talaq-e-ehsan method, which involves dialogue, mediation, arbitration for a period of minimum 3 months, failing which you can decide mutually to divorce in a just and fair manner. We want polygamy to be abolished by law, because the permission for polygamy in Islam is not an open and blanket permission. It is subject to so many conditionalities, and also in today's.
but polygamy is more among Hindus than the Muslims.
Yes,
So is
yes,
it the issue?
yes,
Is it the issue?
yes. It is an issue.
How many
Are you?
Muslims are? Yes.
You hear me out, sir. It is an
Okay.
issue.
Okay.
It is an issue because there are so many women who come to us who are the second wife or the third wife, and they were not even aware that the first wife exists or the second wife exists. So I'm not saying that there is no polygamy in the Hindu community. No, it is there, and you are referring to that. I think 1974 or 78, has been one study which says that the incidence of polygamy in Hindus is higher than the Muslims. Polygamy is wrong, be it for the Hindu women or for the Muslim women or any women for that matter. But the difference is that there is an act, there's a law, the Bigamy Act. If I'm not wrong, it is 494, the Bigamy Act, under which a Hindu woman can take her husband to court if within her marriage her husband has married elsewhere. So she has a legal recourse which the Muslim woman lacks. Let's not get, let's not see, this is a question of gender justice and gender equality, and none of the intellectuals and anthropologists or the JNU scholars that you are referring to, most of them are not going to accept it. So it will only be the woman who is suffering that she will tell you how there is a need to abolish polygamy. I was talking about the permission about polygamy in Islam, and that permission comes with the conditionalities. Let us keep that aside, park it aside for a while. The way to understand the text in a humanitarian and a humane framework is that that it has to be always interpreted contextually. And in today's context, the conditionalities of the polygamy also do not hold, right? We are not under a war. There is no shortage of in fact, the sex ratio of the Muslim community is amongst the best sex ratios. That's that may be a piece of news for many people, that the sex ratio in the Muslim community is much better than most other Hindu communities. So there is no and nor are women today helpless, dependent. No, today the sole goal of a woman's life is not just to be able to find a husband who will feed her, clothe her, house her, and maintain her. She also has a higher purpose in life as a human being. So today's context doesn't permit polygamy. This is my iman, and I know I have had this discussion with my Allah several times, and I know my Allah doesn't give permission for polygamy in today's context. It is a crime, and it should be treated as a crime. So again, I go back to the question that why are we asking for a codified Muslim family law to be passed by the parliament? We have been demanding that this law should be based on the Quranic injunctions of gender justice and gender equality, and we are sure that they will also conform to the constitutional mandate of justice and equality. And just like you have passed so many laws for the benefit of Hindu women, you have passed, you have allowed some 20 years ago, Christian women in India were not entitled to initiate divorce, which now they are able to, thanks to the amendment passed by the parliament in, if I'm not mistaken, again in 2002. Whereby the Christian women now go to the court under the Indian Divorce Act and they get divorced. So it's now become a reality in the Christian community only in the last in the last 2 decades. So aren't Muslim women entitled to parity with their Hindu sisters and Christian sisters and other sisters? I mean, this is the logic of the personal law board. Okay, everything is fine because Islam gave rights to the women 1400 years ago. Yes, the Prophet talked about Muslim women's rights. But what happened after the Prophet was gone? What happened was, what we are seeing today is an example of how all those rights were brushed under the carpet. And on the contrary, patriarchal mindsets and misogynist mindsets took over the community. So yes, while I agree that, the image of a hapless woman from Afghanistan or from Pakistan feeds into a certain kind of a narrative by the Western rightist groups and individuals, but you cannot shy away from the fact. You cannot say that everything is perfect with the Muslims of India. You cannot say that. I mean, see, again, I'm saying that this predates the BJP's coming to power. Had they not, done the kind of blunders that they did at the time of Shah Bano. One old 67-year-old woman, she has no means to keep her body and soul together. There's nobody is willing to keep her. Her husband is remarried and doesn't even look at her face. Her own children, her own sons, after they got married, are not willing to even keep her in their home. Where does she go, to keep her body and soul together? Do you want her to be begging on the roads? So some kind friend who she knew, took her to the court, and the court passed this order that she should be given some 265 rupees, something like that, away. So, I mean, it was such a progressive, affirmative measure that the court took to support a 67-year-old woman. How can we be up in arms against that? What does that make us? How are we different from today's Hindutva crowd? What we did at that time. I was very young. I have no hand in that. And if I was alive and I was in what I am today, I would have fought it tooth and nail. Doesn't matter. I wouldn't have cared which government. I wouldn't have cared which personal law board. So this is the truth. And this is exactly what the BJP refers to as appeasement. Because there has been a systematic appeasement of the conservative patriarchal forces from the Muslim community. And while the rest of the Muslim community has consistently suffered, it has become pauperized. It has been consistently going down further and further in poverty, educational backwardness, economic backwardness, zero political representation, and it has also led to so many Hindus feeling aggrieved. in which out of which that sense has been sort of multiplied many times by the various campaigns of the BJP, and that's how the BJP has come to power. Let's not discount this fact. This is a
No,
major
okay,
fact.
okay. But the critics would argue that the court has already banned the triple talaq. But what was the need for criminalizing it? And they would also argue that that the whole campaign was being launched, but there is no data talking about how many women in India belonging to Muslims community have been divorced without any
Oh,
facts and data.
no. You are wrong. You see the Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan data. We conducted a nationwide survey. We talked to more than 5,000 women. Out of those 5,000 women, 525 women were divorcee women. Out of these 525 divorcee women, more than 94% women were divorced through the instant triple talaq method. So the data exists. You don't want to look at it. You meaning not you, Abhay, but the conservative patriarchal forces.
But India is very huge.
No.
India is very huge.
Yes. So then isn't it incumbent on the personal law board, which calls itself the leaders of the entire Muslim community of India?
But why has not the government brought any data?
Yeah, so the government should have brought, na? That's what I'm saying. That's what we are saying. We are a ragtag women's group. Hamare means mein jo tha, whatever we could have done, we did that. We did that in a scientific manner. So whoever were calling themselves the well-wishers of the Muslims or the leaders of the Muslims, the personal law boards or some politicians, they should have done it. They should have done it, no? So all these women, see, it's precisely because they failed to do it that the women took the matters in their own hands through democratic means. They started speaking out. They went to the Supreme Court. And
but it is also true.
No.
But madam, it is also true that the Muslim women who has been divorced and whose picture was printed in the newspaper and whose stories were being circulated at that time, later they also joined BJP. So it created fear among Muslim community.
No. They didn't join. Only one, Shaira, joined the BJP, and there was one more, Ishrat, in Kolkata. But see, this is exactly what I'm saying. When a woman is fighting, she is fighting alone. She doesn't get any help from the so-called progressive forces.
But will fighting will joining BJP help her case?
See, this is an individual matter of Shaira and of Ishrat. I respect both the women and I respect their choices. I will not join the BJP. That I will say today to you. So I'm saying you are not standing by those who are struggling against.
No, but it creates fears among the society. It creates fear among the community.
Why now I will give you back your own logic. Out of the thousands of women who fought, and BMMA has more than 1 lakh members, out of the thousands of women who fought, only 2 in particular ended up joining the BJP. So how does that become a basis of this whole absurd patriarchal proposition that women who are fighting are joining BJP? No, other women are not joining BJP. And that also, see, you have to understand the vulnerability, the kind of abject poverty and the kind of helplessness in which these women are living. You may not be aware, but I am aware. I'm aware at least about Shaira's circumstances. How she was boycotted she lives in a small village near Kashipur in Uttarakhand. How her entire Muslim neighborhood boycotted her. Even in Ishrat's case, she lived in a Muslim mohalla. They used to, shut the door from outside. They used to lock her up inside the home, her and her 4 children. They never used to sort of go and, help when they were, begging for meals. So do you think such women have the luxury of ideology and which political party to join? What happened to our humanity, We are claiming to be big, humanitarian groups, progressive groups, secular
but
groups.
In parliament, when triple talaq
so don't blame those women.
No.
I blame
okay. So in parliament, when the triple talaq bill was being debated, one BJP MP stood up and she said that when the opposition party were raising some concerns about the bill, which was going to criminalize the act of divorce, then she says there is no need to fear because the Muslims women has got a bhaiya in Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
No, I don't buy it. We don't buy into that also. See, that's what I'm trying to say. I feel that scholars like yourself and your platform, it is very, very important that we don't give any further credence to these kind of false narratives by either side, by the Muslim communal side or by the Hindutva side. We shouldn't give any credence to this. We are our own women. We stand our own ground and we'll fight. And we will fight wherever we feel that there is injustice and we have a contribution to make. We will fight. See, we didn't ask. We asked for a codified Muslim family law where the I'll go back to that, where the age is 18 and 21, where there is a laid down procedure of divorce as per the Quran, where polygamy is banished legally, where guardianship and custody of children are given to both mother and father, where the property share should be stipulated by law based on the Quranic principles, and there should be a compulsory.
But some people would argue.
Yeah.
Okay, but some people would argue about polygamy that against your positions, that okay, the first thing is the polygamy is less among Muslims. The second thing, that Quran has not said that you can marry as many women as you want. There is a condition saying, okay, you can marry not 1, 2, 3, 4, you can do justice with them. So polygamy comes with responsibility, it comes with conditions. So, and our constitutions, and particularly the fundamental rights, that says that the basic principle, the basic the basic structure of the religion cannot be done away with it. So if they try to argue that polygamy with some kind of conditions is inherent part of their faith, how could I think you can talk about, or anybody can talk about abolishing it?
So I go back to your first question, where I said that by and large the texts are misinterpreted, but there is some kind of gray areas. But this is not at all a gray area. This has been argued by Islamic scholars based in North America and in the Europe. Scholars like Amina Wadud, like Asma Barlas, even Fatima Marnisi, who I really admire, and she's my heroine. She passed away some years ago. They have argued that in today's day and age, there can be no permission for polygamy. The conditionalities and the context which prevailed at that time in Arabia, we are far from it today. So there is just no justification for polygamy today. So and see, the thing is also that one of the fundamental principles of Islam is that you have to evolve. Allah has given you brains. Allah has given you brains so that.
But revelation is also. But revelation is most important.
Pardon?
Revelation, the Holy Scripture, revealed knowledge.
Yes. So.
And there is one hadith. There is one hadith.
No, I don't believe in hadiths. I don't believe in hadiths. I'm sure. Sorry, because I only believe in the word of Allah, and the polygamy permission came at that time and that context. It's contextual. It's not normative. See the difference between a norm and the context. We have to keep that in mind. That's the way of understanding our
so your argument is that even in Quran, in your reading, polygamy has no place.
Yes, and we have not in my this is regularly been part of our workshops. Thousands and thousands of women and men have undergone these kind of trainings, and they all know it now. So,
okay. Yeah. So I'll take one question of Muslim personal law board. I think you have made references to it. There are at least two positions. One says that Muslim personal law is most the most important organizations of the Muslim. It is protecting the identity and culture of the Muslims minority community that is guaranteed by the Constitution of India.
No. I didn't say that.
I'm saying one argument. One argument.
Yes.
And the critics of personal law says that it is no longer relevant. It has failed the community. It has not protected the community. There is infighting within the community. And even among them, some people would argue that it has no relevance today. It should be, it should be done away with. I think it should be closed. What is your view on that?
Yeah, I think today, in today's reality, and particularly in the last 10 to 12 15 years reality, personal law board is highly irrelevant. That's how so many women have come forward, and they've started taking the lead. In fact, I would give the credit to these ordinary women who have showed it to the whole country that gender justice is a fundamental principle of Islam. Which personal law board singularly failed to do. In fact, personal law board gave an impression that there's no equality and no position for women in Islam. It's the ordinary women, the women whom you are, some people are accusing of, being BJP agents or whatever. I don't know. They are the women who have proved to the whole world that our mazhab and our Allah gives us equal rights, and we are second to none. So personal law boards is irrelevant. And again, today, because of the Hindutva context, the right-wing political rise to power also makes personal law board highly irrelevant. And they have remained caught up in their thinking of 70s and 80s. They don't understand. They fail to see that the Muslims of the whole world is changing. They're living in the age of internet and technology. They're living in the age of knowledge revolution and information at your fingertips. The whole world is changing. India is also changing, and Indian Muslims are also changing. And so many young Muslims, men and women both, the personal law board is not in touch with the reality. So many young Muslims, so many even middle-aged Muslims want change today. So the personal law board, they don't need personal law board, because personal law board's commitment and competence both are, I would say, not perfect. So
but the government has never talked to them. Is it not the failure of the...
Why should any government be talking to them? Tell me. I mean, just look at the other communities. Look at the Christian community.
No, because sometimes it creates some impressions that, okay, the authoritarian government is not ready to listen to the voices coming from the minority community.
You're talking about this government. This government.
Yes.
You're talking about the Modi.
Yes.
Modi government is not talking to anybody. No? It's not talking not just to personal law, but it's not talking to farmers. It's not talking to students. It's not talking to academics. It's not talking to the migrants who have been, faced to such tremendous hardships during the lockdown. They've all been robbed of their jobs, of their livelihoods. So
no,
the government is not talking to them also.
Many Muslim intellectuals, and activists who are not affiliated to personal law board, they argue, and I have talked to them. They have said that the matter of personal laws and reforms should also always happen, but the government should listen to the voices within the community. There should be one discussion. There should be a dialogue, and the government should only play the role of facilitator. But what the government is doing, it is doing everything. So that creates some kind of some anxiety, some anger, some fear among the community. How far is it correct?
So I wish all this wisdom had been put into practice before the advent of the BJP government, before 2014. We should have done all this, judicious processes when there was, the UPA government and some other governments, so-called secular governments. We should have done those processes, and we should have reformed the Muslim personal law. Now it's too late, and now it's gone out of your hands. So, but on that question from within, all these women who have been speaking out, by the thousands, these are voices from within. These are the voices of the oppressed. These are, you talk about it in a human rights framework, or you talk about, you refer to Paulo Freire and say these are the very oppressed individuals who are taking up the fight. So these voices are coming from within. So why are those, the personal law boards and some of their scholars not willing to listen to them? So that means they will always put barriers to any change, which is sought to be brought about. So leave this government aside, like I said from the beginning, that our issues predate this government.
Okay, so triple talaq is over. It has been outlawed by the court. So what are the other issues, immediate concerns for the Muslims community, which you would like to underscore? Yes. What are your agenda, programs, campaign?
Triple talaq is not over. Because the law has been brought about, but the law, as soon as the law was brought, we called for so many amendments. So, but those amendments have not been made. We still have today also a woman.
What are your objections? Your objections with the existing law?
Yeah, so we wanted that the FIR should be allowed to be filed only by the affected party, that is the wife herself. and there should be scope for negotiation, and so it should be compoundable. The offense should be compoundable, because it's a marriage is a serious relationship. So it's between two individuals, and they have to be given that, that, like I said, what the religious texts talk about, the spirit of negotiation, arbitration, mediation, all that. So that is to be brought in the law. And we also wanted the procedure to be laid down as per the talaq-e-ihsan method, involving both the parties over a period of time. Minimum
And what
90
about
days.
government's failure to give any compensation? What the opposition party was talking about during the debate?
So, I mean, this government doesn't give any compensation to anybody. I mean, coming from Gujarat, I know this long time ago. So yeah, so anybody can.
And criminalizing part, should it be done away with?
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. That was our first reaction, and that was our first kind of a response. But when we talked to the women in the mohallas where we work, they were furious. They said, उसने मेरी जिंदगी खराब कर दी, 6 महीने की सजा क्या चीज होती है, कुछ भी नहीं होती है. So I'm saying we are not for that kind of a logic, but that can be arrived at the whole procedure of divorce. If we lay down the procedure of divorce, it will not lead to this kind of a, but having said that, even overall, the understanding has come about in the Muslim community that instant triple talaq, what they call Zubani teen talaq, is not Quranic. It is not sanctioned by the Quran. This understanding has come again thanks to the women, not because of the likes of the personal law board. So the women have brought about this awareness. So on its own, also because of this awareness, the incidence of triple talaq has gone down. It has not completely stopped. And even when the cases are coming, there is a huge difficulty in getting an FIR filed. This is the experience across states which is coming to us. So it's still very, very early days. And also, I would just say that it takes time. It takes years, perhaps decades, for any law to sort of.
And what are the other issues? What are the other issues?
Issues are, mainly the issues about the issues.
Is halala also the issue? Some people accept it, some people deny it.
Abhay, the entire issue of law reform is one comprehensive issue, and all those problems that I referred to, that includes polygamy, that includes halala, that includes custody and guardianship, that includes inheritance and property. But the other issues also that on which BMMA is not only about personal law. Let me clarify that to you. BMMA is also about equal citizenship for the Muslims. So earlier we were fighting, and that fight continues, about how the secular entitlements in a family's life. So be it educational scholarships, be it the ration card, be it pension for the widows, depending on various state governments and their schemes. And the entire question of education, particularly for girls and even for boys. So we have been running Karma centers for socio-economic empowerment in some 7 cities. And we are also, demanding a protection against the kind of majoritarian communal onslaught which has happened, particularly, through the so-called love jihad laws, and also by the whole looming threat of NRC and NPR. There is a discrimination between citizens based on the religious background. So we are calling.
AP also said that it is against the basic structure secularism. This law CA. Yes.
So we're calling for a repeal of the CA, and we also calling for. We also stand in solidarity with other groups who are struggling for justice and their democratic rights. So we also called, in support to the farmers. We gave a call that the farm law should be repealed, and even if some law has to be brought pertaining to agriculture, it should be done in consultation with the farmers themselves. So it's not just that, we only are focused on, we are focused on justice and equality for the entire Muslim community. That includes the men. And we are also for communal harmony and amity, and building bridges with all other communities, and, and arriving at a greater mutual understanding and respect, which are all part of a multicultural society.
So gender issue is very important. Gender justice is very important. Nobody is denying it. But the way the gender question is framed, and I think on the plank of what's the communal plank, the way it is being framed, and the image is being created that only the Muslims women are suffering. And I am not saying that you are to blame for that. Even the media is not talking about. And as far my experience is concerned, my study is concerned, and even several scholars have also written that Hindu women, they also suffer a lot many problems like child abortion, dowry, discrimination starting from her place to the place where she is married, domestic violence, then less access to property, and then lack of opportunity in the field of education, health, and employment. So why not the struggle of women on the on united platform is being solved?
No, why? I am 200% in agreement with you. All Indian women suffer because we remain in extremely patriarchal society. So a woman who is a highly qualified professional bringing home, lakhs and lakhs of rupees every month also suffers. And a woman who is a fruit vendor, somewhere on the street, she also suffers. So, and it includes Hindu women, Muslim women, Christian women, all Indian women suffer. Look at our politics, look at the way our parliament has been stalling the women's reservation bill. So all Indian women suffer. There is no denying that. I would not in my, wildest dreams suggest that Hindu women have acquired all the rights and they will become equal. No, they have certainly not. But what we are seeking is parity, legal parity in the matter of family law. We are seeking parity with the Hindu women, with the Christian women, with all other women who have the protection of law only in the matter of family law. Where we are denied, and you are referring, again and again to the Sharia Application Act of 1937. I suggest, go back and read that law again. Does that law, the way it is drafted, does it provide any answers to any of the existing problems, be it of triple talaq, be it polygamy, be it child marriage, be it custody and guardianship of children, be it sharing property? Just read the law, and it's a very brief, small, chota sa law. You will take just 3-4 minutes. Just look at the law and say it's a sham. That law is a sham. So you have, the parliament has granted legal protection to other women in the matter of marriage and family. We as Muslim women are seeking parity. And we are speaking out for the Muslim women because we are born into this faith. There are so many women's groups who are fighting for all other women. So, in so many of the meetings, the same question, I can turn it upside down. In so many of our meetings where men walk in, they say, why are you making a separate group for women? There are so many, they take big names of big organizations, and they say, there are so many organizations, why don't you go there and seek justice? So no, representation and the oppressed herself taking the initiative. Jiski ladai, uski agwai. This is a principle that we have, imbibed over the course of time. From history also, there is so much evidence, even from other parts of the world, coming from Latin America and from other parts of the world, and we believe in that. Jiski ladai hai, usi ki agwai honi chahiye. And why not? Why not a movement of Muslim women? Why should Muslim women always go to other women? Same question Dalit women are also asking today. Tribal women are also asking that. And women's movement is not one women's movement. There are women's movement, so many women's movement. There's so much diversity, so much pluralism within that. So yeah, so we are taking it up because change begins at home, and change begins with yourself. And like I said, that we have gone beyond, and we are in solidarity with so many other campaigns, which is part of our regular work actually, Abhay.
Now, the big questions, Uniform Civil Code. The court has said, what will be your positions? The need, is it needed, or it is no longer relevant?
See, gender justice is needed. Now, how we arrive there, there can be multiple routes to that, Abhay. One of the routes that we already discussed that. One of the routes can be reform in Muslim family law and codified Muslim family law. That can be one of the routes. Now, in today's day and age, who are the people who are espousing the Uniform Civil Code? And therein lie, most of the answers. So today it has become so hugely politicized. It has become so contentious.
But your answer, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, it's not a yes or no issue. It's not a yes.
But many people are saying that bring the draft. We are
It's a
ready
very,
to
very,
debate and discuss
it's a
it.
very, very nuanced, and very, very complex issue. Like what we have been discussing for the last 1 hour, and I'm sure that it doesn't concern just the Muslims. It concerns the Hindus, it concerns the Christians, the Sikhs, everybody, and everybody will have to be sort of having their say in that
No,
because
but I interviewed a person, a leader from a left organization, and she said, I think last week, that earlier we also thought, belonging to left organizations, that uniform civil code may be very progressive, but now we increasingly realize that instead of bringing about uniform law, that is not possible given the diversity of this country. Reforms within the personal law of each and every community should happen. So
very good, very
will you
welcome.
think that this?
See, like that's why I'm saying, I think they also must have arrived at this position. They must have had their own, reasons for that. But today it's a hugely politicized issue, and today it is being raised by the very people who opposed it originally when it was brought by Nehru and Ambedkar. Who opposed it? Take out the Constituent Assembly debates documents and read all the arguments. It was meant to be, it was termed as an attack on our ancient civilization and culture. And the leading, opposition was the Hindu Mahasabha members of the Constituent Assembly, and so many sadhus and so many religious bodies outside of the Constituent Assembly at that time. So now today, I mean, it's a hugely politicized issue. So I don't think uniformity is important. What is important is gender justice. And okay, I have written something about this. It will be published shortly. I'll share it with you. But if you look at the recent record over the farm laws and over CAA, and before that over the land bill and all, I mean, I highly doubt, what are the purpose, what are the intentions. I don't know. So we are very clear that we are committed to gender justice and gender equality. And we have also realized, unfortunately, that in India, in our country, politics overtakes everything else. So, do you think there is a concern, little bit of concern in the political parties and the BJP today about gender justice? Do you feel that? Your
My
voice is
next
gone.
question, no, my next question is related to your last sentence. When I was doing a research on Muslim Personal Law Board in 1915 and 60s, I think they were opposing Nehru on Hindu Code Bill, and the argument even the Rajendra Prasad made is that a
Yes,
state has no business, a state has no
yes,
business to
yes, yes,
interfere
yes,
into the matter of community and
yes,
society.
yes.
And in 1970, Golwalkar, the RSS chief, also said that we don't need any uniform civil code. We are for harmony. But
Yes.
why the right wing forces are so much concerned about emancipation of Muslim women?
So that's what I'm
I,
saying. That's what I'm saying. I said it in the first place that it's only about politics today, and I said that who are the people who are raising it today, and what is the record? What is the historical record? Why did they oppose it in the first place? That's what I'm saying. So yeah, so it is politics today. It is politics, and see, very frankly, post COVID, there is a substantive loss of credibility as far as this government is concerned. So I don't think they are in any position to bring about any drastic changes and fundamental changes unless they take some urgent measures to repair and to involve and for inclusion of everybody, which I'm not very hopeful that can happen. That will happen. I'm not very hopeful. So yeah, it's only about politics today. That's why the key stakeholders, who are the women, are nowhere today in this debate. It's only certain men figures affiliated to these, the rightist establishment, and certain people in the media. Only these many people are talking about it today. Nobody else who is actually affected by all the injustices and all the malpractices and all the frailties of the laws. They are not, the women themselves are not talking about it. So
before
it's
this discussion,
politics.
yes, before this discussion, I was going through some of your articles published in Indian Express, and you were very critical of the Hindutva government. You were saying that it is imposing its own agenda, authoritarianism, and you linked the questions of women to larger issues also. But why? I'm honestly speaking, there is a particular section, maybe very small, among the Muslims community. They believe that you are just dancing to the tune of the Hindutva forces. Why that image is
Yeah,
there?
yeah. See, I'm not answerable. Nor do I know why they think what they think. But then I spoke to some people
Why there is so much
who are,
mistrust? Why there is so much mistrust?
no. Yeah. Because they don't. They are given to their own patriarchal thinking and their own elitist status quo. See, I spoke. I can take the names. Asghar Ali, Dr. Asghar Ali Engineer was my dear friend and mentor. He's no more. You know that. And there are some other
Yes.
people also. There is Professor Tahir Mehmood is also there. There are some other, well-known, very key 4 5
Yes.
reformists in the Muslim community. I'm close friends with each one of them, and I've spoken to them, and they are all men. They are not even women. There are some friends of mine, like Advocate Badar Saeed is there in Chennai. She is the pioneer in the whole field of reform in Muslim personal law. She's much older than me, and she started it actually. They are all, all of them are men, and they said that they have faced similar allegations all through their lives. So that, what does that tell you? There was no BJP at that time. I'm talking about 20 years ago and 30 years ago, when BJP had only 2 MPs in parliament. There was no threat of Hindutva at that time, the way it is, the way they are in power today. So उस जमाने में भी यही कहते थे कि भाई आप तो यूथ, आप तो RSS में जाके जुड़ गए हो. What all they have done against Dr. Asghar Ali Engineer. So there is a whole lot of powerful people whose vested interest lies in maintaining the status quo. So anybody who takes up the cause of reform has to be undermined, has to be sort of maligned, because you can't. We defeated all their arguments, Quranically speaking, because we called their bluff. We said that this is your misinterpretation and this is your patriarchal mindset which is at work. This is not the religious text. This is not what we understand, what you are interpreting. So we call their bluff there. So अब दूसरी बात क्या होती है? दूसरी बात क्या बचता है? What हथियार do they have left in their hands? So they start saying that they are the agents of BJP. I have been personally also attacked a lot of times because I'm married to Soman Nambiar, who happens to be from another faith. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I am born Zakia Nizami, and I have my own relationship with my Allah that nobody can take away from me, no? So this is the, like they say, it's the last refuge of the dash.
The last
That's
question. The last question. Last question. Many people follow you. Many people follow you. They consider you as a role model. Many people have faith in you. They think that you are doing wonderful job. So opinion may vary, but in conclusion, what will be your message to those who believe in gender questions, particularly empowerment of the women, Muslims women? So your concluding remarks. Yes, madam.
Yeah. So I recognize that we are up against huge challenges, but I also feel that our community and our society and our country gives huge opportunity and huge scope for us to realize, our belief in justice and equality. So I want all the women and men, who are socially conscious, who want a social change, to believe in themselves, to also believe in their whatever is their faith, whatever is unka jo akida hai, and also all of them, I'm sure, are taking inspiration from the constitution principles of democracy, justice, equality, diversity, pluralism. So it will not be an easy fight, even at the smallest level, even at the most personal level, individual level, because I get a lot of emails and private messages of girls and women in distress. And while many of them are coming from a deprived economic background, several of them are from a very highly educated background and in good positions and coming from highly educated families. So, there the concerns are different, but I always tell them that you have to take your own life in your hands, your own matter in your own hands. You have to stand up. You have to stand up and fight, and you have to be unabashed about your fight, because you are fighting for justice. You're fighting for equality. You are not doing something wrong. You should not be ashamed. The person who is doing injustice to you should be ashamed of you. That is my first message. You should stand up and fight for your rights and for the rights of all around you. And second message is we are very, very fortunate that we are born into a democratic nation. And this nation has given us so much. There can be aberrations such as Hindutva, there can be aberrations such as BJP government or Congress government or whichever government, they will come and go. But we have faith in ourselves largely also because we are equal citizens in a secular democracy. So that faith, that lot of developments can take place which have taken place in the last few years, but we should not give up. I have faith, I have faith. I've seen in my life and in my sort of struggle in the against communalism and in communal violence also, there are so many huge numbers of secular people, law-abiding people in the majority community who have all come to the help of so many riot-affected Muslims. So the faith is in a common citizen, is in ordinary women, ordinary men. Despite of very divisive politics, despite of very heightened religious polarization, I keep my faith in the ordinary Indian. And there have been moments where I have also been very, very sort of, pessimistic and dejected. But then some development happened, something happened. And again, I was ashamed, to have sort of felt so pessimistic. So these are the two things I would like to share with all the
Thank
young
you very much.
men and
Thank you
women.
very much, madam. Friends, we were just listening to Zakia Soman, who is women's activist, women's rights activist, and also co-founder of Bharatiya Muslim Mahila Andolan. And she is one of the pioneers in the movement against the triple talaq. And she has said that the fight is not over; it has to continue. And we have also taken up so many questions related to uniform civil code, the identity of the Muslims, the religious leadership, Muslim personal law board, the text and how it should be interpreted. And at several points, we have also had discussions and points and counterpoints. But I have learned a lot from you. And I think my view will be shared by many other friends who are watching it. Madam, thank you very much. I think discussions and dialogue should continue.
Thank
And
you, Abhay.
I'm recording and I'm documenting the views on personal law in uniform civil code. So it will be uploaded soon on my YouTube channel. So you could also watch it later, and you could also listen to the views of other participants also. Thank you very much, madam, for joining.
Thanks, Abhay. And thanks for everybody who joined. Thanks.
Thank you.